What happens when a demon takes his half-demon trainee to the Charles River for a little hands-on chaos? Let's just say, nobody's afternoon kayak rental is safe. Hey, I'm Amanda, and this is Acutely Amanda, the podcast where odd-numbered seasons explore fiction and even-numbered ones dive into crafts, DIY, and the stories behind what we make. Since it's season 3, we're in fiction mode. I'll be sharing a short story, and then, like last season, exploring the inspiration, process, and real-life threads woven through the piece. All of season 3 takes place in my Tova Gallagher universe, a paranormal version of Boston where angels, demons, nephilim, that's half-demons, and more walk among us. Tova, the main character, is a nephilim, and in her world, every half-demon must choose a side, angels or demons. That choice is said to predict how the end times will unfold. She owns a bookstore with her college best friend, who doesn't know she's a nephilim, has a paranoid but loving mother, a brand new werewolf boyfriend, and a half-brother named Bartleby, also a nephilim. Guess which parent they share. If you're into witty urban fantasy with a touch of chaos, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Today's story is Demon Training 101, Chaos on the Charles, a short urban fantasy set in the Tova Gallagher universe. Bartleby sighs when he spots Dusk Reaver, not his real name, but the closest English approximation of the demonic tongue. Bartleby thinks he should go by something like Brad, but when he suggested it, Dusk Reaver asked him, "Why don't you go by Brad?" And he didn't have an answer for that, so he dropped it. In any case, he's not a fan of the fact that he ranks somehow lower than the incubus as a nephilim. He's asked when he'll climb ranks, but nobody has been particularly forthcoming about that. All they'll tell him is that it's essential he take on the tasks asked of him. So for today, that's joining Dusk Reaver at the Charles River to wreak havoc at the kayak rental. A high calling for sure. Dusk Reaver stands in the shadow of the stack of kayaks, a true feat, as at 6'6", it's hard for him to be in the shadow of anything. As a full demon, he can take on any human likeness he would like, so the choice to be so tall is galling. Demons are by nature genderless, but the majority choose to present as a particular gender. Dusk Reaver, as an incubus, sort of has to choose male. If he chose female, he'd be a succubus. He's got it into his head that he won't frighten human women as long as he's skinny, hence the height. Bartleby is really not sure how Dusk Reaver doesn't see how everything about his greasy persona screams "run away," but somehow he's hitting his incubus quota anyway. Bartleby pauses, head tilted. Maybe full humans don't see how greasy Dusk Reaver looks. It's the only explanation for why he's hitting his incubus quota. Dusk Reaver sees him and makes a come here gesture with annoyance. Bartleby rolls his eyes and finishes approaching him. They give each other the briefest of nods and say nothing. 2 couples and 1 family stand in line for the rentals. The first couple is in their 30s, fit and barely speaking to each other. The next is in their 20s and clearly on a first date. The family is headed up by 2 mothers with 1 son and a daughter, both somewhere between 6 and 10. Chaos reigns as it usually does with young families. No demonic interference needed. The 2 couples will be their target. Dusk Reaver will surely be coming for the 30-something girlfriend later tonight if all goes well. Bartleby will target the young man in the younger couple and try to draw him into a cult of some sort. The 30-something couple pay the staff person and head to the edge of the river to get assigned their kayaks. The 20-something couple steps forward to make their selection and pay. It's time. Bartleby makes a small gesture with 1 hand, and the stack of kayaks next to the 20-something couple mysteriously falls directly into the young woman, knocking her off her feet. She exclaims, protesting loudly. She's not hurt besides some scrapes, but the young man hesitates to step forward and help her. She scrambles up from the ground with the assistance of a staff person. The young man steps forward to speak to her, but she holds up a hand toward him. He approaches her anyway. Bartleby acts fast, making another small gesture, untying his shoelaces. He trips on them and falls into her, knocking her into the staff person. The staff person helps her find her footing. She says thank you, then turns and yells at the young man and stomps away. Meanwhile, a splash sounds from the river. The fit 30-something man has dropped his phone in. Bartleby didn't see how Dusk Reaver accomplished it, but he did in some way. The man raises his arms to heaven and starts ranting. His girlfriend laughs. He snaps at her about how decidedly not funny it is. She bites her lip. He turns to rant some more. Dusk Reaver is ready. He's summoned the squad of Canadian geese, and one walks right behind him. The instant his leg hits the goose, Bartleby knows what's going to happen. Sure enough, the man pratfalls right into the river back first. He surfaces spluttering, and the girlfriend's laughter peals across to everyone else. The children point and laugh, their mothers reaching out in a futile attempt to quiet them. A staff person offers a hand to the boyfriend, who is turning so red it's amazing the water isn't boiling around him, and he climbs out of the river, nearly pulling the staff person in. The boyfriend and girlfriend have a heated but brief argument that ends with the boyfriend leaving and the girlfriend climbing into her kayak to paddle the river. "That's that then," says Dusk Reefer. "I'll have an easy time with her later." He licks his finger, unwashed, Bartleby is sure, and runs it across each of his eyebrows. "You know human women aren't attracted to eyebrows, right?" he asks. "And just what do you know about attracting human women?" "Enough. If that was true, we wouldn't be assigning you men to lead astray." "I can't help it that my telenovela personality works so well on the men of Boston, whether they realize they like men or not. Speaking of, it's time for you to finish what you started." Bartleby looks at the 20-something young man standing there with a wounded dog look on his face. He sighs and straightens his posture. "You're not wrong. He's ripe for some flattery about how attractive his clumsiness is." "It's amazing anyone is still falling for that after Twilight." And yet they are. A confusion about how predictable humans can be is the one commonality Bartleby and Dusk Reaver share in their opinions. Neither is willing to admit that they also share an affinity for unique names. Bartleby takes his leave of his instructor, approaching the young man. It won't take much to spin compliments of his clumsiness into an invitation to a tarot party later that evening, the beginning of his spiral into darkness. Bartleby feels a twinge in his stomach, but he ignores it. He snaps his fingers, conjuring a bag of pão de queijo, Brazilian cheese bread. He must just be hungry. It's been happening a lot lately. Plus, he can ply the young man with the bread. He's too kind-hearted to risk offending Bartleby by rejecting the food. The end. If you're watching or listening and thinking, "Wait, is kayaking actually cursed?" drop a paddle emoji in the comments. I always envisioned my paranormal romance, Ecstatic Evil, as the first in a series, but I let a few years lapse between writing the first and second books. So after I drafted the sequel, coming fall 2025, I decided to dig deeper into the backstories and off-screen moments of the characters from both books to help me edit with more nuance. Bartleby was a fan favorite from the first book. We know he chose to side with the demons. Not a spoiler, it's revealed early in Ecstatic Evil, but we don't really know what his demon training looks like. How could this good-natured, even likable big brother be learning to act fully evil under demonic tutelage? The more I thought about it, the funnier it struck me. That got me thinking about places I've seen things go sideways in Boston. Of course the T stood out, but I already featured a commute gone wrong in Ecstatic Evil. Then I remembered kayaking on the Charles River with my husband, and all the other people we saw queuing up for it. Our day wasn't a total disaster, but it was much hotter and more miserable than we expected. Turns out, being stuck in a plastic boat in the middle of a river you're told not to touch due to toxins, not ideal summer fun. That day, the water was flagged for poor quality, and a few days later we came down with whooping cough. I blame the tea, my husband blames the kayaks. I'd also seen couples and families bickering near the kayak rentals, repeatedly, and I'd read about a woman who dropped her phone in the Charles at that same venue and hired a diver to retrieve it, who pulled up at least 3 phones before finding hers. So, the scene formed. Bartleby learning how to bring chaos and evil into people's lives from his demon mentor, who we haven't met before now. Yes, it's a bad thing, but Bartleby is just funny by nature. He's not a bad guy. He's a guy who felt cornered into a choice. Picture the nicest person you know with the worst job imaginable. That's Bartleby. And, without spoiling anything, he's ripe for a redemption arc. I paired him with a low-ranking incubus because I thought the tension would be meaningful. Incubi prey on women in their sleep, and Bartleby, at least his human half, is very much not okay with that. He's not the type to prey on anyone. If someone's not into his charisma, then he's not into them. So, it's not a good match. It makes him uncomfortable. It's also something he's keeping secret from his sister, even as he pressures her to join the demon's side. Bartleby's got layers. This scene was also a chance to play with point of view. I originally wrote it from the perspective of every major character in the scene to fully flesh it out. Then I picked the version I liked best, Bartleby's, and rewrote it with more depth thanks to all that internal exploration. And of course, I couldn't resist inserting a demonic explanation for everyone's very bad day kayaking. I also worked in tarot cards as a nod to Tova's mom. In the books, she turns to conservative religion as a trauma response to having a baby with a demon. She's afraid of pretty much everything. Books, TV, yoga, you name it. But while she's often over the top, she's not wrong about everything. That's what makes her so frustrating and fascinating. And on this particular thing, tarot, she's right. The demons are using it to interfere and spread darkness. That's what I love about urban fantasy. It overlays the fantastical onto everyday city life, making even a pile of kayaks falling off their stack feel magical, or at least cursed. That's it for this episode of Acutely Amanda. If you enjoyed this little burst of urban fantasy chaos, give the video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. Ever had a fun afternoon activity go haywire? I'd love to hear about it in the comments, or tag me on Instagram, @OpinionsOfAWolf. Next week, we're attending a 12-step support group, but in the Tova Gallagher universe, not even recovery meetings are as straightforward as they seem. They are still anonymous, though. If dry humor is your thing, hit subscribe so you don't miss it. To dive deeper into Tova Gallagher's universe, visit opinionsofawolf.com/publications and click on Tova Gallagher. See you next time. Bye!